We are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk. Welcome to another episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
Got a good show for you guys. We got the Le Mans kind of hiccup, if you want to call it that. We'll get into the tactful stuff about it, and then we'll get into our speculation of what really kind of went down. There's also a rendering of a Porsche Project 411, some type of future thing. We'll go over that. Daniel Arsham and Porsche got together on a 930 Turbo. We're going to discuss that, how awesome that looks. If you guys aren't on social media because you live under a rock, you got to go look at those photos because they're...
You'll see it even under the rock.
Yeah,
because it's
mind-blowing. Yeah, so got a good show, and then we'll discuss the next year's Fahren dates. And those all be coming out. Yeah, those all be coming out. We want to get those dates out to you soon. I mean, not soon. Well, you'll hear them, but I mean out to the emails to the members of where we're staying for lodging and all that stuff. We want to get all that buttoned up real fast because, like we said, everybody who attended this past one is going to get that email first.
Get the first dibs.
Probably, what, a week to 2 weeks? We haven't decided the number, but maybe give them 2 weeks to make the decision whether they're going to sign up within that 2-week window before we release it to the rest of the membership. For signups, because, like, again, we're probably accepting 25 to 30 cars. We haven't decided on that exact number, but that's about the ballpark wheelhouse we're going to end at, right?
Oh, yeah, limited.
Yeah. So 30 max, probably on that. So even if you're begging and you didn't get in, sorry, not sorry, you should have signed up immediately. Anyway, let's get rolling. So Le Mans.
Yep.
Ouch.
Thankful
I got the damn watch the race and that... they had the race to begin with, right?
I mean, was that I was kind of discussing this offline. Was that the first time that they went all the way through the night with the race coverage? Because normally I feel like they do like a break between, like, I don't know, 2 in the morning to
it's generally whoever the carrier is. It was Motor Trend this year, so they covered it nonstop, which was great. Just like when we go to Rolex, the commentation never stops. They just have shifts that come in. But you're right, with the televisation of it, I think it was, that's not even a word, but...
streaming, yeah.
As far as that goes, we were able to watch I still crashed out. I think I went to sleep at like 1 a.m., and then I got up at 6:30 a.m., so I took like a 5.5-hour nap siesta.
Little stint.
Just to get up to watch us still finish in P5, which is great, like whatever. So let's get into that portion of it. So it started earlier in the week, right, where we got BOP dick punched with...
Yeah, we were
a 40 kilogram weight
before we got there.
Yeah, 40 kilogram weight penalty
for the new car.
For U.S. listeners, that's about 88 pounds, and then also a little bit of dial down in power too. So if you don't know what BOP is, that's basically the governing body. It says your car's too fast. We need to make you more competitive with everybody else because we think your car is so much faster than everybody else.
Balance of performance across the class.
So. Not only did we get screwed with weight, usually it's one or the other, not usually both.
Yeah, not restriction.
Yeah, so it was a double underdog punch for us on this one. Not making excuses for Porsche, obviously, but it is kind of it is a dick punch.
But
let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, when the commentators are like, well, they're just down on horsepower, I'm like, well.
Yeah, and the guys and the drivers in the cars are saying it too when you hear them on radio. We don't have it in the straightaways. The car still corners like a Porsche. It can handle that.
Yeah, they're definitely quick.
Yeah, the fact that, and we'll go through the macro level. We had some issues, right? We had punctures like everybody else, power steering failure. We had a couple issues. The fact that they both finished that grueling race, I mean, to finish at 24 hours is a feat in itself because so many people didn't finish.
The LMP2 class was just like going out, attrition left and right.
Yeah, the initial start of the race was... Everybody's car was like basically crashing left and right. But let's get into this like weird paradox, right? So we qualified P1 on the hyperpole, and that's basically just qualifying, which is interesting because I was reading this yesterday. What's today? Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
About the Aston team and the Ferrari team. They both set lap records during the race, but not during qualifying.
Yep. And that's one of the things, too, because Aston last year, if you didn't watch, they got BOP'd pretty hard.
Oh, they got hammered like we did last year.
Because they were also setting good qualifying laps. So they held back. And I don't know if you can ever. There's nothing to really combat that and tell them to run full out. That's the thing. Like I don't.
But see, it's a double-edged sword. I was thinking that too, right? Why sandbag in qualifying? Because your car's already been BOP'd before qualifying.
Mm.
So it's not like you're going to get your car's not going to get dialed up more.
Yeah.
I mean, are you just trying not to show the rest of the field what you have?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, because
not.
it doesn't really change your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, because you can get BOP'd right. I mean, after all that stuff though, right before the race,
they can. If you go way too fast, they do dial
Yeah.
you down. You're right. But if maybe you just don't want to get, maybe you're happy where you're at.
I think, and I was
so then maybe that's why you sandbag.
Yeah, maybe, but I think they should have a 12-hour adjustment. I think halfway through the race, they should be able to go, okay, obviously we BOP'd these guys and they're no longer competitive to the rest of the class.
Yeah.
Let's turn it up at 12 hours and see if that makes a difference.
That's a good idea.
I think that's a fair thing. It doesn't need to happen at the beginning of the race, but I think it's enough time to make.
But would you
call.
base that on lap times?
Yeah, I guess it would be lap times.
And then the track officials will just have to make that determination.
I mean, if we started on P1 and then clearly the first lap, we just get driven by.
When you go down the Mulsanne straight and people are just literally driving by you like you're standing there.
Yeah, the Ferrari looked like it was like, and the Aston was like, and they were within 10
Both turbocharged cars, by the way.
Exactly. And they were within, seconds of each other, tenths of seconds of each other. Yeah, that would be like, okay, maybe maybe we went too far with the BOP there.
The thing that kind of pisses me off is I compare this to a lot of our listeners are in the North American region, so they get this. So I'm talking about American football, not rest of the world football when I say this.
Yeah.
You know when there's like a pass interference call in the game and it's kind of a screwed up call and it's on the other team and it's like, oh man, we kind of messed that up. I almost feel like last year, since they kind of did Aston dirty, like we were the one holding the grenade this year. They're like, all right, you guys did great last year.
Somebody's gonna take it.
You're taking it this time.
Well, I mean, they already discussed that because I sent you an article like way before, like weeks ago. They're like, I was like, here we go. I highlighted it and I was like, here, we're already getting penalized for the new car. It's gonna be faster.
The really screwed up part about it is, yes, it was a difficult race in general. They made it even more difficult for Porsche, which I think is kind of shitty, that they had to basically cripple the car that much. And what ended up happening, like bigger picture, is now because of that race, we actually could have picked up ground on Corvette, but we didn't. And because of that, now we don't have an opportunity, even if we went out, to win a championship now. They screwed our car up that bad.
Yeah.
Because if we would at least podiumed, we would have still been in the hunt.
In the points, yeah.
But they effed us so bad, didn't even let us podium.
So
I think that's really fucked up.
Yeah.
Because Porsche spent the money to still be there for them, and they still gave them the dick.
Yeah, we still got. I mean, we got points for all the other stuff, so we'll see how it really rolls.
Well, Kevin was talking about it on his Instagram yesterday when he was on his drive home, and he said, even if we went out, we can't make up the points.
Yeah. So, well.
And if you haven't been paying attention to racing, we've been getting it all year anyways.
It definitely feels like 2020 is not our year.
Yeah. So maybe a good idea that they're going to take a break, right?
Well, I mean, in the U.S. they are, because we still have.
Well, that's where I'm going with this. That's why I kind of like led with that. So, with that being said,
yeah.
If you guys didn't know, one of the
there's
race
2
managers
cents.
was talking. If you saw it on Instagram, it's still out there. He said, we didn't have a good race. He was being, very honest, and tactful, just like most of everybody who works for Porsche.
He's a good dude.
But on the flip side of that, said, we'll be ready next year. Mm-hmm. And I text you instantly, and I was like, next year?
Yeah, next year, because I didn't think about it either. But I mean, they break it down into 2 separate things. We have our IMSA stuff that they're just not going to bring drivers over, and it's probably understandable from the fact that now they got to quarantine people and they got to stay over, and who knows how that actually works. Maybe it's costing Porsche a lot more to keep people over here and all that.
But with that being said, since he said next year,
yeah.
and you and I talked offline about this, does that mean that we're going to see a Porsche factory team, but they're going to race in Europe only.
Yeah, it's just going to be the World Endurance Championship, the WC. So that's what they race in when they're in Le Mans. That's why we see those 91, 92 numbers and all that stuff.
So you think they're going to stick with that still? Yeah. So they still technically are going to field a factory team.
Yep.
They're just not going to field an IMSA factory team.
So GT cars are still going to get developed and all this other stuff.
So, note to self, if you're listening, get over to Europe when they open the gates for
exactly.
us. Slanderous Americans can get over there and watch a race then, right? So then you just take a Euro vacation and you watch a race.
And if you're not, if you're already there because you're...
Or at least you get to watch it on
from
TV.
the UK or whatever.
Right? Or watch it on TV, which is nice. So
that is cool. The coverage was
That's
nice
unofficial. We're filling in the blanks based off of what he said. Now, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Could it just been something he said because he's in the heat of the moment? They're always at Le Mans anyways. Was it one of those things where it wasn't obviously a choreographed speech where he was speaking from the cuff and he just was like not even thinking about what he was saying just because Porsche is always there? Maybe he was just saying that because they're always there and not really considering maybe they're not going to be there next year.
I don't know.
Because Corvette didn't race in Le Mans this year.
That's true, but Americans can't come over, and that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was the reason for what was the other team? Was it Rebellion? Somebody was missing some of their guys because they couldn't come over, and that's the thing. I guess they want to keep that. They minimize that from happening if they just stick with the European guys.
Yeah.
That'll happen. They still want to dig it. Le Mans is a thing.
So maybe not. We'll see for Porsche factory racing next year. It'll just be in Europe.
Yeah,
not in the
US.
US.
Where we'll have to watch it.
However,
we still have AM and stuff though.
So circling back to them getting screwed over for all the races. So EMSA's been screwing them, and this was the Euro screw. So this was totally unrelated. So it's not just EMSA effing them over.
Yeah.
They got effed over at this race. This was the Euro side of it.
We're just too good. We got to be turned down, apparently.
Well, they probably didn't like that 17, what was that, 16, 17, 18, that triple back-to-back.
Yeah,
and then
trick.
And we took a year off last year. They probably didn't want us to get back in rhythm with that.
I was wearing my 83 Le Mans tribute. It's like nobody's perfect, and it's like we had every place except 9th or 8th or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty awesome. So all in all, if you didn't watch the race,
it's hard fought though. Those guys drove.
You still should have supported and watched. It's always a great year. There's a lot of history there. There was a lot of great racing, even though Porsche didn't do what they needed to do, or wanted to do, I should say. They did what they expected to do. They wanted to complete the race, and they did do that. They just weren't as competitive as they hoped to be.
The GTM though was pretty competitive, and guess what? They were running last year's car.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
And then, while we're on that topic, congratulations to Dempsey Proton.
Yeah.
They took second in amateur class, GTE AM, with their car. They were very competitive they raced their ass off the entire time. They fielded a lot of cars.
They did.
They probably could have podiumed a couple, had a little bit of misfortune here and there, but they did end up taking a second, which is great. To see at least a Porsche up there on podium, that was nice. And then, I don't know if you've reached out to them yet. Like I sent you that message, but the Wins team, did you? Okay. This is a bonus for us. I know there's a lot of people not in our area listening, but Wins is actually 30, 40 minutes. Win Chemicals is, and they fielded a car there, and they field cars all the time. And if you follow me on Instagram, I posted about their vehicle. So we're hoping to maybe get them on the show and as guests and actually talk about their Le Mans experience. It wasn't their first time at Le Mans. They're always at Le Mans. But it's our first time realizing how close they were to us, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I did a little background research, and I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be right. These guys are here?
Yeah, I didn't see it
we should reach out to them. So we've reached out. More to follow on that. It'd be great to get some Le Mans perspective and owner's perspective of what it was like to be there during a COVID, because there were no fans there.
Yeah, it had to be odd.
So that was a lot of the actual feedback from a lot of the drivers and owners and everybody that was there and allowed to be there for the race. They were describing how awkward it was.
It had to be like dead silence.
It was strange.
None of the parades, none of anything that happened.
Yeah, and then all of the stuff, all the people in the paddock, pre-race, all that kind of stuff. None of that stuff was there, and I think all of them, in general consensus, is hoping next year fans are allowed to be there, because it really takes away from what really that race is, because they had the whole camping area that turns into a mess. You know, they didn't even have the Ferris wheel up. I mean, there was nothing going on.
Oh, that's true. They didn't, huh?
I mean, they had no reason to have it.
Yeah.
Nobody was riding it.
Yeah.
So I don't even think I saw any fireworks either.
No.
Like normal at midnight when they do that. So, I mean, it was just kind of a
It's crazy times.
down year, right? I mean, total bummer, but thankful that there was a race at all. But absolutely, it was nuts. But needless to say, that's the recap on that. If you didn't watch, but maybe watch next time. Be a real Porsche fan, right?
Watch it.
Step your game up. All right, let's move on. Rendering a Project 411.
Yep.
This is just a rendering. This is actually outside of Porsche's design house that was developed on this, a design studio, and there's always people doing renderings and all this stuff.
Ton of these things.
So this is basically a 911 Speedster blend with like a Spider type of deal, but it's full electric. This is like a future car. This is
Oh,
just
it's electric.
full electric, autonomous, supposed to be able to cruise at like 250 miles an hour, all this kind of stuff. Don't worry, guys, we're not seeing this anytime soon, if ever. This is just a G-Wiz thing, but it's very cool. You should go online and take a look at it. It looks pretty neat. It looks like something from Tron or something like that.
You think it's going to be hydrogen powered? That was a big thing the Le Mans announcers kept talking about.
I don't know about that. This thing's got, you know, it looks super racy, obviously, because it's futuristic. It's got the flying buttresses. It's got the double bubble roof.
Little iRobot-esque.
It does, right? I think it does. But where I'm going with this is it's a cool thing. You guys kind of take a look at this when you get a chance. What do you think about, you know, all of these renderings come out? Is it just a fun exercise, or do you think there's some design cues that end up making it into production at some point? You know, maybe 20, 30 years from now. This is still down the road. Or is this kind of a G-Wiz project?
I think it's people just hoping to get traction from somebody and anybody, like
Instagram likes or some crap like that.
Yeah, that is a great design. I don't think
or get a job based off of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I doubt Porsche's going to be like, whoa, sweet design. We haven't seen that before. Because they're always working on something.
Well, they have a pretty stout design studio.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, it could be more of that, right? Maybe try to just get their name out there.
I mean, they always do. I mean, they have done collabs, so.
Yeah, sometimes you farm that out, right? Like, it's a lot cheaper to, if you already have people on projects, you don't want to stop them from what they're doing to go design something like this. I think it's a G-Wiz thing, but I mean, it looks so futuristic. I mean,
it does.
You take the damn wheels off this thing and it looks like it could fly, essentially.
And we've seen those too.
Yeah. So, again, back to the G-Wiz thing. I think it's a good design exercise. I think it's healthy for engineers to dream and push us forward and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's more of an artist versus engineering, because the engineer probably would.
Oh yeah, you're right. Those, as most of you may or may not know, those two forces never agree on anything.
No.
When a design comes up, the engineering say, "Well, that is impossible. That cannot work. We cannot design the car to do that."
Exactly.
And then the artist says, "Well, figure it out." And then it's
and then the safety thing happens.
And then that's how you get a Pontiac
actually,
Aztec. Like. That's kind of what happens.
I mean, Walter White might love it, but no one else does.
Exactly. That's how you get that car, because then you just have some hodgepodge of mess coming forward. But anyways, I think it's pretty neat to have something like this, that we're pushing that envelope. I think everybody, not just Porsche, obviously. And there's always these design studios that are always pushing that edge, and I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see when these cars actually do start hitting, instead of us talking about them and us seeing photos of them, because it's so easy to do with technology and software nowadays. It's so easy to do a rendering with something, right? With the software and the programs.
Do you think this will always be a thing? Like, we'll always try to keep looking back and doing a retro design with futuristic technology? Or do you think we'll eventually just reach a point where we don't even care anymore? It's all a future.
I think yes and no. I think if there's lineage and history with the vehicle, then yes, i.e. Mustang, i.e. Challenger, the cars that have history and have a timeline of success. So they have to have prior success is where I'm getting at, where the car did well, right? No one's going to go back and make a modern but retro Pontiac Solstice or something like that. It's got to have it had to have staying power while it was relevant, I think. And if it goes away for a while, or not at all, the design keeps changing over a few decades or whatever. You know, everything that's hot right now is retro. All these retro designs, everything's retro. Like even Honda's doing it with their first Civic looking thing. Now they're doing it with their EV car. They're making it look like the first Civic they ever made. That car put them on the map. It has relevance to them. I think if the car has relevance and you can play on those design cues, I think they'll always reach back on.
So
them.
if somebody electrified in 917, drive it, or you wouldn't drive it?
Of course, I'd probably drive it, man. It looks sexy as long as it looks right. As long as it's not. I think the biggest thing is it's got to have curb appeal, right? Everything else can almost get a pass, as long as it's not so crippling where it's embarrassing, right? Where you take something and you're like, wow, it looks like it should go super fast, but it's like really, really slow. I think that's the only time where you really, really screw up. But Porsche's not. You know, let's be honest. They're not a domestic company. They never do that. They don't make something has a beautiful design and then dump like a 4-cylinder engine in it just so they can sell 1 million of them. That's not Porsche.
Yeah, Boxster.
Exactly. Well, I mean, still, even that car, brand new, was still a lot more expensive than anything on the domestic market in the sports car world.
It's true.
So yes, it was an affordable Porsche, but it was there's still a standard there. But anyways, I just think it was interesting. I just wanted to bring that up. Let's take a quick break, come back and discuss this in length about Daniel Arsham and Porsche and one of our really good friends who did wheel design on this, about our thoughts on this and what this could mean for Porsche coming forward in the future.
All right.
Thank you guys listening to PCAR Talk so much. We appreciate you guys so much. I can't say that enough. Check us out on YouTube. We release videos on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Help support the channel. Everything we're doing is trying to bring the community closer together. We definitely appreciate that. Also, when you go onto YouTube, you know, if you could subscribe, maybe pass it along, make a comment, we really appreciate that. Again, circling back to pcartalk.com, there is a newsletter created on there. Please put your information in there. That way we can keep you up to date on anything that's coming forward and anything that we're going to be doing moving forward and all the exciting things that are coming out. Now back to the show. Artist Daniel Arsham, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. I hope I'm not. If you don't know him, he's done a lot of work with high-profile people. Pharrell Williams, singer-songwriter. Additional, he's worked with Adidas. He's worked with Porsche before.
Yeah, he's had some high-end commercial gigs then.
Yeah. And he's a sculptor, artist, fill in the blank, everything on that page. So him and Porsche got together on this collaboration. They did a collab on a 1986 930 Turbo. It's freaking awesome. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, 930 Turbo.
Yeah, you already start with a cool platform,
Good
right?
platform.
So I just want to give a big shout out to our good friend Matt Crook over at 1552. He did the Fuchs style wheels for this car. Also did the engraving on it with it. Throwback to the 74 RSR style engraving with the magnesium wheels. So just congratulations to him to be included on that project. What an honor, and I'm sure he was like very ecstatic to do that.
Like, oh, okay.
So I want to let you talk about the car a little bit.
Okay.
I love the car too, but like some of your highlights on it, and then we'll discuss this car and what this may mean for Porsche moving forward, and our thoughts and theories behind it.
So it's all white. So that's cool.
It's a good start, right?
It's a good start. And I didn't know what to expect out of the interior either. It's also light colored, but so we start off all white car, Apple livery. Can't go wrong. And then you think, what would improve upon an Apple livery? Going lighter and pastel-y, which I would never think to do. I don't think anybody.
A lot of 80s pastel in it, right? Like not the poppy apple that you're used to seeing, like the really bright ones that you're seeing. It's like almost looks faded.
Yeah, he went very, very 80s with this. Like he took the car. It's like, what did he see? And then, it's crazy to see those colors faded in pink. White. It's just such a light color. You don't imagine that it would even really pop off the white. They're so light. Exactly. But they do just
It's like those
enough.
soft eggshell colors almost, like eggshell white, eggshell pink, eggshell teal, like really soft, but
It's definitely something that somebody should do again.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be replicated.
It'll be everywhere.
Once this, I mean, it already is viral, but
Yeah, that's something too. It's absolutely everywhere it can be. But then even the design in the Fuchs wheels, like you said, there's a little etching and it done that Matt did, and then the interior is something
unbelievable.
I didn't expect. They use every color that they used on the outside, as far as the 6 colors. If you don't know, that's what Apple started off with, and it just every detail. And even they didn't just stop at like maybe it's a color and then a stitch. It's like a different color on this panel and a different color on this panel to bring in the inside and the outside. It's a well done artistry of pastel colors.
Yep.
And
what I love too, what they did is they used a lot of period correct stuff, right? So there's a roof intercooler in it.
Yeah.
That they painted mint green.
That's true. They tied in every pastel color is tied in somewhere again and again and again. They really did no part untouched. It wasn't they didn't just motor, whatever, we'll make it chrome.
Exactly. And then just the colors that they chose inside, it's almost kind of like a very light camel Alcantara with dark blues in it, and it's so damn good. And then the dials with like you said, they pulled in the outside mint green colors into like the RPM dial. I mean, it's so fire. It
had to take them a couple of years to go through these designs and really tie in everything. I mean, it's no stone untouched.
Well, like we know, like discussion, meeting of the minds is what slows progress. If he got full reign with it, it might not have taken that long. If he got to just run with it, it couldn't have taken that that long. But
or he might have to be like sketches in the back of the notebook. Hey, if I ever built one of these, this is what it would look like.
Exactly. So let's ask the bigger picture, and we don't have the answer to this, so it's just total speculation, just giving total transparency behind it.
That's what we like to do.
Why do you think this project even happened?
Well, I guess it's about time. I mean, we like retro things, classic things, and they're really diving into that with all those classic centers that they've opened up and all the services and restoration. Maybe they just want to show a little bit more, like, we don't just do it back to bland, standard color. We can be fun. We can take some. We know our heritage is. Here's something cool.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to discuss that. Where you, and that wasn't even intentional. I'm glad you brought up Porsche Classic. Do you think if I went and we'll talk to Ray and we'll get you actual information behind this, the listeners is what I'm saying. But do you think if I went to Porsche Classic now and I have a 930 turbo and I see this, not a rendering, this actual development of this project, and I say, I get it, maybe I can't get every little thing that you guys did on this, but can you get something close to that? Or do you think Porsche is sticking to when they do a restoration, because we did talk to Ray about this, and they can go from ground up and do everything that you want to do. But do you think you can go outside of the box of what your car was originally compared to this? Like almost kind of a resto mod type of modification at Porsche Classic? Or do you think that they're staying in their lane if you go to Porsche Classic and not doing something like this for a customer? Maybe is this just a one-off project?
The only reason I would say that they wouldn't just stay in their lane is because they've started to offer these on those heritage editions for the newer cars. They've started to offer all the different liveries for different specs. But I think they might reach in and go, that's cool. I think they might need I don't know if they would need to approve it or how that would work, but I think they'd be willing to entertain it.
So here's the thing. I trapped you. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do it.
I wanted to ask you that to see what your feel was on it. Not that there was a right or wrong opinion, because it's your opinion. I'm going to rewind us back to Ray and that guy doing the Porsche GT in oak green.
Oak green metallic, yeah.
That was not the original color on that car.
It's true.
They did that. They also did the magnesium wheels in gold. That was not part of the deal. So I think they would do this. Now, would there be a long wait? Probably.
Yeah,
but it could be done.
Would they allow you to do it to near that spec? I mean, would you let you replicate something the same? I don't know. That'd be different. Maybe you'd have to choose a little bit different pastel colors if it was that livery.
I think you could probably get almost close. I think where you'd probably fall short somewhere is, I bet, would be more interior wise. I think exterior you could probably hit every nail on the head with that one, and I don't think they'd have a problem with that because they don't own Apple, so they don't care.
I wonder if they had to get Apple permission.
Probably not.
Wonder. Still copyrighted.
But even if they did, you don't think? I'm sure Apple would approve it. I mean,
and Kevin should redo his livery right now. Pastels.
You know, I think his Apple livery works on his cars because it's more modern.
Yeah.
So the bright colors work on his, but like this one, the pastels work really well. But which leads me to my next question, even though it's kind of already answered, but you answered it a little bit too. But I actually want to dive a little deeper on that. So say I come to them, and let's say I have an 80 something 911. And maybe it's a factory original slant nose. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I want to go full like race liveries type setup and give it the more racy look. Maybe I want to go plexi and even put a cage in it. Like I'm done like doing the Cars and Coffee cruise with it. I want it to be more racer, a little bit more hot boy. Do you think Porsche Classic will go that far? Or do you think it's more of kind of like, yeah, you can pick a color. We'll help you with the wheels, but we're not going liveries. We're not putting a cage. We're not going to do plexi. Like, we're not going to...
Yeah, I wonder if they... I don't know
what I'm getting at is, do you think there's limitations to that if I was a customer for Porsche
I would think
Classic?
there's a safety limitation at some point, because just because you tell me you're not going to take this on the street doesn't mean you're going to take it on the street or not. But then again, if it's really unlimited and just dependent on the checkbook, I don't see why they wouldn't in time. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Some baller out there start doing this so we can actually get some information on it. But
yeah, we're gonna
I think I agree with you, because if you want it and you dream it, long as you got the dough to do it, I think they would do it.
And they're just going to get advertising and stuff off of it anyways once they finish.
Yeah, because then it's just going to be a poster child for them. Yeah. It's like, look what we built, right? So I think the answer to that is yes. However, do the dollars and the hours make sense for you as a consumer to do that at Porsche Classic, or go outside of that?
Probably it doesn't. I mean, I think it's just a gee whiz. I mean, not gee whiz thing. I think it's a cool thing to have Porsche do anything.
I do too.
Whether it's if they can maintain the cars and you get service records for it, but for them to fully restore it and be done by factory stuff, even if it has to use a Stuttgart for paint or whatever, to have all that lineage and paper documentation, then it's just not another build.
That's when and I think that you hit the nail on the head there, because I think that is paramount. Because if you do some type of one-off, obviously it wouldn't be one-off too long, because if some other guy liked your setup, it would be something similar or maybe to that effect. But what if you did some type of race livery on a slant nose, or even like a regular Carrera, whatever you wanted to do. You wanted to do something funky there, and you did all this other stuff to it, and then it's also Porsche certified. So does that change almost the DNA and the chemical code for that car almost when you ever resell it, because you have all the documentation from Porsche to say, hey, this is a Martini liveried from Porsche, and XYZ, we did all of this from Porsche.
It's almost like recreating your allocation. It's really what it is. At this point, if Porsche is willing to do all those steps, you're wielding your own.
Yeah, so let's go to the far right. Like, say you were one of these guys who always wanted an RSR car from the 70s, and you can't find one because there's hardly any of them that exist. But you take a shell, and now you take it to them, and you go, I want to do an RSR build. Do you think you can get that thing modern and re-stamped RSR?
And then that's true.
That's a question for Ray that we need to ask him, because that would be very, very interesting if you could do that.
Because does it go now from a tribute to a legit RSR car? Because, I mean, it's done by Porsche.
Or reimagine. That's the word. Factory. That's the buzzword everybody likes to use.
Well, no, because it would be zero. I mean, you could have a 0-mile RSR car by the factory. I mean, you would have, or 0 hours, because it's really going to be a race car, but that's definitely something.
I know back in the day, Porsche was doing weird stuff like that for customer racing, where you had a regular one. There were cars, they went back to them to get stuff like that done, because they needed the money too. And they were telling people no, that they wouldn't do that, even though it didn't essentially get released from the factory as an RSR.
Well, and that would just go hand in hand. So, I mean, if they built the RSR car, then you're running hours on it. Then it goes back to Porsche Motorsport North America to have it recertified and continue to be. I mean, that's the money. It's money going in circles.
You're hearing it firsthand here. If you can do that,
In the back of Mike's mind right now,
you can just see my eyes like
has
instantly like going
something he
like,
thinks.
yeah, but who's going to spend $600-700? Well, I can't afford it, but I'm sure there's somebody listening that probably could. Here's the thing, though, and I'm going to play devil's advocate on this. If you could do that, why hasn't anybody done that yet?
Very good question.
Or maybe somebody just doesn't have the nuts to do it yet. That's another thing, too.
But then or it's been done and nobody's talking about it.
No, because that thing would be showcased if it was done. That would be a flex brag from Porsche Classic to say, look at what we're doing.
Look what I showed up to HSR with.
So
running Daytona.
maybe they don't do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do, and maybe somebody just doesn't want to pay the money what it costs to make it that because they don't. Maybe it's still not going to be valued like an RSR at the end of the day. Like the consumer doesn't feel like it's going to be worth $500,000.
It'll go to a point because it's not going to have race pedigree like those cars would.
Well, yeah, that as we know, that's what a lot of that stuff actually matters is the documentation of what races it raced in. What did it really do out there? Because even the ones that are real RSRs or whatever specialized cars or lightweights, if they don't have any history, they're still expensive. Don't get me wrong, but usually they're significantly less than the cars that have history for racing history.
Did the GT, the factory team have it? All those type of things.
And even and you can get even deeper in that because the cars that do have even race history, did it win a race? Did it ever podium? Because even if it didn't, if it raced and it didn't podium, it's actually worth less than the cars that won races.
Yeah.
So then there's that too.
There's always a deeper inner
I mean, you can
circle
just the wormhole is just infinite, right?
Limited.
It's just infinite. I just think it's a cool thinking exercise behind it as well. And if you could do that with anything, I know, but Tim and his guys, we saw when we were out at the Peterson, and this is a little bit of sidestep to the topic, but it has a little bit of consistency of what we're talking about. You could go buy a 911 GT3 RS and take it to him and have him put all of the RSR factory race fenders and all the underskirts but it's a registered street car because it has a street VIN, but you're putting the entire carbon fiber body from the RSR car on it. Granted, it's expensive to do, but you can do it, and it looks unreal. So it's essentially a street car that's an RSR.
Yep.
Where I go with this now is, I know it's Porsche Classic, but they're considering 996s classics. So could you take a 996 Carrera and take it to them and say, if you're one of those guys who wants an RSR one, because there's not a lot of them, and you don't care about race pedigree, could you have them build that car out?
Build a motor and everything.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like an RSR car. But it's street VIN'd. So you're bumping a sequential on the street. Granted, I mean, it'd be riding a bucking board. It would be rough. It would be terrible on you. But the cool factor is out of this world.
It's unlimited. Over 9,000.
You're welcome, Porsche Classic, because if we're bringing you business right now, percentages want to come our way.
I'll put it 996.
And if you can't do it, maybe have a meeting about it, because it'd be pretty badass if you could do stuff like this, and we could be your voice behind it.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think it's just money limited. I think they would build it. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I think it'd be foolish for them to turn that away. Why would you turn that away? You have the facility for it.
I think really there can't be. It's such a minute amount of people probably doing that. That just doing it. I mean, you're not going to do it that many times.
But Ray even told us when we met with him, what they're doing already is a small demographic of people. For even just the standard stuff. Oh, I just want my suspension done. Because they're not foolish. They know there's tons of other places that people go and do things like that. What they do, and he openly said this to us, what they do is very detailed, and it is expensive. However, but it is Porsche certified. That's the kicker. It has that stamp on it, which you don't get when you go to your independent. And I get it. There's a lot of the population that does not give a shit about that. I get it. Most people are enthusiasts. They just want to drive their cars. They don't care if Porsche stamped it because the suspension is built even better than it was from the factory, or even what those guys are going to do, or they don't want to pay the hours that it takes, whatever they have their crew having to pay and the parts and all that stuff. But there is a demographic of people who do want that. And within that demographic of people, maybe somebody wants something cool other than just factory stuff.
I just meant it wouldn't be a time suck for them not to do it. Like there wouldn't be. There's not gonna be so much demand where they're gonna not be able to do it or turn people.
Yeah, I don't think. And I think another great thing Raid said about what Porsche Classic does too is like they're openly realistic about what their time frame is to do things. They're like, okay, cool. You want us to do this from head to toe? 2 years. Because essentially we're building a car from scratch for you.
Yeah.
No problem. But just expect not to see it for 2 years. And if we deliver early, great. If not, it's on us.
Yeah, I mean, they should almost call it Porsche Classic exclusive because that's your stuff.
I wonder if it's going to develop into that.
Your stuff's coming off the line.
Because remember, we're still in the infancy of Porsche Classic and their restoration process because, you know, the Carrera GT that they did was the biggest thing they've done to date, but they are doing other things on the side. And I think while we were there, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say when you and I toured their facility, I think they were in their engine room. I think they were actually rebuilding a 996 RSR engine for a customer.
That was one of, well, I don't know if that was there. That was in LA.
Okay. But that was happening.
Yeah, that was in the dyno.
Yeah. But that's considered a classic engine.
Yeah.
But they were rebuilding it.
But that might have been getting done. Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening.
So what I'm saying is, like, if they needed to, they could essentially build that. LA could build the engine, ship it to Atlanta
seal it,
or whatever.
Goes to Atlanta. Yeah. Gets put together.
You're welcome.
Race car.
Yeah. All it takes is for us to get together and think of this stuff for you guys.
Man.
Anyways, long debate about that to get to great build between Porsche and Daniel.
Yeah. Long way around. Very good project.
If you haven't seen it, go look at it. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing them a disservice because they took the time to build it. It's absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, Type 7 has it. I mean, everybody has it. Matt
has it. It's viral. Everywhere. It's everywhere. So let's discuss Fahren next year.
It's happening.
So we have kind of dialed in, and I know we've talked about it in length on the podcast in the past. So we've decided for 2021 drive, there isn't going to be any weekend driving unless you want to do it on your own. Meaning the pre-planned days to drive are going to be during the week because there's less obvious traffic on the road. There's less tourism going on. So you can have more fun. You can drive more enthusiastic. You can push the limit a lot safer. So we're going to have a Wednesday check-in, which is going to be September 15th. And then drive on Thursday, which is the 16th. Drive on Friday, which is the 17th. And then the 18th is going to be kind of a fun hangout day. If you choose to drive that day, it is not an organized drive that day. That is you and maybe your friends want to go out and do something because it gets very busy. And the time of year we're going to be there is going to be very busy. And there's going to be a lot of tourist stuff going on that weekend. So we are eliminating the Saturday portion of the driving. You only need 2 days of it anyways because we put 10 to 12 hours down per day.
Easily.
Drove over 2,000 miles. I mean, we put it on the cars and we put it down on the road. And so that's how we're going to do it moving forward. This was almost kind of like the prelim year. It just passed. And we find like, obviously there'll be fine-tooth changes here and there. But I think this is where the sweet spot's going to live is during the week driving because we can obviously push a lot harder. And we don't get a lot of like hang-ups between like traffic as well. And that's the big thing. We obviously don't want to endanger anybody else on the road or ourselves. And if we can change the time frame around so we can try to mitigate some of that, that's what we're doing. If you're like, well, I got to take more vacation days. No problem. Just don't go. That's the answer.
It's true.
More for the rest of us, right?
Well, it's the most enjoyable time. That's what we're focusing on.
Exactly. And we actually pushed it back a little further, right? So we did it in August this past year, and it was still nice. It was beautiful out. It was high 50s in the morning, low 60s and 70s in the afternoon. When we're going next year around this time frame, we're probably looking at low 50s and then in the 60s in the afternoon. So we shouldn't be any hotter than that. Perfect weather for the cars, perfect weather for us as humans. We're going to have a great time. So we're really looking forward to that. And as indicated earlier in the show, everybody who went this year is going to get a 2-week window of first dibs to sign up again, which is great. And we want to honor that. As long as you continue to sign up, you will get first dibs. So if you signed up this past year and you paid, you're going to get that email. Yep. Now, after that 14-day window, after you get that email, it's going to go to the rest of the membership in the P-Car Club. And then it's full reign on the rest of it. And like I said, 25 to 30 spots, that's it. You know, I don't want to hear, oh, it went to my junk. Check your junk mail. Sorry. Junk mail. We'll be talking about it on the podcast. We'll be talking about it on Instagram when it's released. So literally, you will have no excuse to have missed your window. We're not dealing with the whole like, well, you know, all of this got messed up and I didn't know. And, you know, 30, 40 days have passed and we're already filled. Oh, can I get in still? The answer will be no.
Yeah, we're planning. I mean, it's definitely planned around the Smoky GTA, planned around Targa, planned around all the things that we know
we're
about,
being mindful of all events so we don't double book. And we're actually trying not to back-to-back book. So that's why these dates are picked the way it is, because we have some of the guys that are Smoky's GT guys that are coming on this trip. And the week we had originally planned, it would have been our trip, and then the very next week it would have been fall Smoky's GT. So we didn't want to do that to some of the guys. So we want to give everybody a week break. So that's why it's the week it is. But it's going to be an awesome time there as well, because there's also going to be other festivities going on in the area that we're staying in. So it's going to be an added bonus this year because of us pushing it back essentially a month, right? So basically why I wanted to announce that is all the club members that do listen, be checking your emails probably, in the next 3 or so weeks? 3 to 4 weeks? Yes?
Or sooner.
Okay. 3 or 4 weeks or sooner. Yeah. You'll see the emails. That first group of people, you'll probably be seeing that email. Like I said, there's that 2-week window. We'll get everybody signed up. Aaron and I will make sure that we reach out to the hotel. I know it's super early as far as booking, but because there is going to be another event going on in town unrelated to driving, we probably are going to need to, everybody who's going, you're not going to be able to book online. What you're going to do is probably have to call, and we'll try to get the rooms blocked, and they'll be expecting your phone call to go ahead and secure your lodging, because you're going to want to definitely do that. You definitely do not want to wait till the last minute on this, because the place we're going to be at is going to be sold out fast because of what's happening.
Probably. Yeah.
So, no, for sure. Not probably. It will be.
Yeah.
It's 50th anniversary. Come on. 100%.
True.
So I know there's a lot of code behind that, but there's reason behind it. If you're a member and you know why there's code behind it, we're trying to keep the drive intimate, and we're definitely not trying to have anybody scumbag the event and just show up and not pay. So that's to protect the membership. That's to protect you guys. I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else for them before we wrap up? And we're already wrapped up before we close out.
No, I have nothing else.
All right. We love you guys, and we will talk to you on the next one.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of P-Car Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at P-Car Talk or online at pcartalk.com.